Kids, we got a treat today. You know who we're talking to? We're talking to Dr. Mary. What is Dr. Mary? Who is Dr. Mary? Let's go ahead and get right to it. Dr. Mary, who are you and why are you hanging out with us today?
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me to the show. I am hanging out with you. You are awesome. I've heard about you in the industry, just so you know. I am Dr. Mary Anderson. So I am a family nurse practitioner with 10 degrees, 2 doctorate degrees, a PhD. I'm also a professor and 2 master's degrees. So I'm actually Dr. Mary Anderson, and I am an artist manager with my own company. So I own my own company. It's called Healing Vocals Artist Management, and I partnered with Death Boy Productions for Universal Music Group.
Look at you. So you're
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. You're a true entrepreneur and you're very well educated entrepreneur. So you know a lot about entrepreneurialism. You know, it sounds like a lot about the industry, the music industry, and maybe the medical field. It sounds like
Yep.
you're a well-rounded woman.
I am. I actually have my own podcast too, which started off this journey. They've written many articles about me. You guys can find one of them at theinfluencer.com. You can go read about my journey all the way from Nashville, how I grew up in music, how I took a break, went into medicine, and then I am back into music and medicine.
Holy mackerel, you got a lot of good. Let's back up. You got a cool story. I think the listeners out there need to hear your story. Why don't we start not from birth, but almost from birth? Let's go to the beginning. It's a cool story.
You know, it really is an awesome story. People love it. So I grew up outside of Nashville, Tennessee, in a little town called Bellevue. And you guys can look it up. When I grew up, it was very rural. Now it's really bougie, and they'll get me for saying that. But yeah, so I grew up there, and we had a farm in Franklin, Tennessee, which is now a preserve. So that's interesting. So yeah, I grew up on gospel music, singing, playing the guitar. I grew up, right outside of Nashville, Tennessee. So my dad died. He was also an artist. And he was in the military. He was a lot of things to a lot of people. Very good man. So he encouraged me in music and encouraged me in singing. My grandmother did, especially in church, and I loved it. I sung from about the time I was 4 or 5 and on up. My dad passed away when I was 11, and that about broke my heart. I was a daddy's girl, and I decided right then and there I would never do music again. I would never sing again. I would never do anything. So I went into healthcare and then medicine, nursing for about 23 or more years. And I started doing medical missions probably about 10 years ago. I've done medical missions for about 8 years, and I've traveled all over. I went to 17 different countries. I took I have a white German Shepherd. He's beautiful. He was actually trained to do the medical missions with me, especially overseas. And I kept running into all these different people in the music industry and the entertainment industry that would give back. And nobody was talking about it. And I just thought one day, I was overseas and I had met somebody, had an interesting conversation with them. They were an artist, and they said, Mary, you should talk about this. And I said, okay, I will. So I'm going to put together a platform for artists and those that are in the entertainment world to talk about all the good deeds that they do and how music and entertainment can be really good in the world, because we hear so much negative stuff. And so I put my podcast out. It was about 2.5 years ago, and it blew up. My first episode grossed 15K overnight followers, and it just took off. Okay. And I started getting invited to all these events, and some artists reached out to me and they said, Mary, you're really good with artists. Because I would show up at these events and they said, would you come manage us? And I said, sure. So I remembered the lessons that my dad had taught me from way back in the 80s about being in the music world and everybody in Nashville that I come in contact with. And when I started doing artist management, so many people reached out from the industry like, oh my gosh, it's so great. You're back home where you belong. And I was putting medicine and music together. So anytime I would go to these events, anytime I'd have a show, anytime I'd be with my artists, I also took care of them as a family nurse practitioner. And I would do these shows and also be the medical person at the shows. And it just blossomed into something like somebody flipped a switch. I can tell you somebody just flipped a switch somewhere. And I started getting offers and bigger things and people reaching out to me that I never dreamed of. I have the top mentors in the industry mentoring me to do this. And when Marcus Billups, Mr. Billups, reached out to me, he said, I like your background. I like what you can do. He said, come work for me. Come work for me. And this was in January. I just finished up a huge concert being a stage manager with Bry Lou. Bry Lou, and that was December the 30th of last year. Bry Lou was actually touring with Fix and Dax. Dax had this hit song out with Darius Rucker. It's called To Be a Man. And so I was kind of like really thrown into this world for the last 2.5 years. And when Mr. Billups asked me to come and work for him, I didn't realize he was with Universal Music Group. And so I got brought on board. And now I am his artist manager and a business partner. And I could not ask for a better team. It has been awesome journey. And I have met so many people along the way, and we're doing some big things. And I took my love for what I do in medical missions and community. And Mr. Billups also does a lot for the community, and we're partnering together to do his nonprofits and his missions. So he's also and y'all, I have a huge story. It's more than this, but I'm giving you guys the rundown. And it's just been an incredible journey. Mr. Billups is all about giving back to the community. He's a good artist himself, great artist. He's went diamond, platinum. He loves the music industry, but he also loves giving back. So me partnering with his company was such a good fit. Everybody in this company that I'm in now has really welcomed me with open arms, and they've said, Mary, let's go do great things together. And so boom, we are doing great things this year.
Is it like you're a woman? I don't. By the way, I think I might have mentioned my mom was a big time jazz musician manager in New York City back in the day, and she was very unique because she was a woman in a kind of a men's world.
Yeah.
Is that still the case, or is it not the case that most managers are men?
I find very few artist managers who are women, but Universal Music Group has a CEO that's a woman, and I applaud them for that. And she is so supportive of everybody. And I love that. And I think Lainey Wilson said it best when she said, you know, I work hard in this industry, but hold my beer and watch this. And, you know, I love Lainey for that, and her songs and the way she just goes out there and she does her thing and she doesn't let anybody stop her. Reba, same thing. I look up to these people in the industry. Tammy Long Carlos, she is another artist manager, but she owns her own company, and I've met her a couple of times, and she is with Wade Jennings and Sam Lowe, and has helped them, and she manages them. And so I really look up to these people in the business. You know, I haven't really met too many other than them.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
Most of my viewers and listeners only know, or at least they know me partially because of my love for Dave Matthews Band. So a lot of the musicians you're talking about, I don't know of, or I might have barely heard of, but it's a cool story. It's a really cool story. Now, one thing you mentioned really stuck out to me. We're on a podcast now. I'm going to assume we're not going to hit 15,000 listeners with this podcast. A lot of our listeners and viewers are entrepreneurs, number one. Number two, are either thinking about having a podcast or have one and want to take it to the next level. So
Sure.
I'm going to ask you, how did you get 14 or 15,000, whatever the number was? How did you get that many listeners or downloads in your first episode? Give me that secret, will you?
You know, I'm still trying to figure that one out. When I start looking back on this, number one, I did what I loved.
Mm.
I put it on the right platforms.
Which were?
So I go through, let me look here.
Like me personally, I use Apple, Spotify, Anchor FM, or I guess Anchor FM is Spotify now.
There's something that I found, and it just happened to be something that I found, and it's called Buzzsprout.
Buzzsprout, my friend started that. I gotcha. Okay, cool. Very
Yes,
cool.
and I put it on there, and I just advertised it on my Facebook, my Instagram. I did all of those platforms. But it happens to be that somebody told me this once, and I really truly believe this. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Mhm.
So the one thing I would say to anybody out there is, if you have a passion for something like I do, putting medicine and music together and seeing how, bringing out the best in people and having that show from the heart, having that drive, that's going to be number one.
Mhm.
Because if you love something and you're putting it out there, it's going to show.
Yep.
And I think that's why I had that success, is because people wanted to see that. They wanted to see the positive. They wanted to see, oh my goodness, look at this lady. She's putting music and medicine together. Let's watch it. And when I did that, I can tell you that first episode, I was shocked. I went to bed thinking nobody's going to see this.
Mhm.
But then everybody was commenting on this episode. It's so interesting. Look at this lady, and we didn't know this about this artist, and we didn't know he gave back, and we didn't, this is so interesting. Her story is so interesting, and she highlights the good, and we always hear the bad. So people were really hungry to hear that. I think you got to know your audience. That's second.
Know your avatar. Yep.
Yeah, and then have a good platform. Buzzsprout has been so wonderful to me. And anytime I've needed help, they have been right there by my side and said, Mary, this is how you do it. Let me give you some, even their customer service has been great.
Mm.
And it's very affordable. And if you want to start off with a podcast, distributing it out there, that is one way to do it. So I think that's the 3 keys. Do something that you love. I mean, truly love, and let it shine. Don't try to just do the most popular thing. Do what you love and let it shine. Know your audience and have the tools. And I think that's going to make the biggest difference.
It's funny. We had at vastsolutionsgroup.com, we had a podcast for basically 2 years. We've had 2 different seasons, and we would only, this is going to be kind of embarrassing for me to admit, we would just send out little snippets to our clients.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had a question about whatever 401k, we'd send the snippet out, but we never really mass distributed it. And now going forward, we're going to mass distribute it. All the people in our database, all our people in our socials are now going to be knowing about our podcast and viewcast. I think it's very important to get the word out. If you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, the only way that you're going to grow is getting the word out. I think podcasts, as we call them, are a hugely successful way of getting the word out, because one, you and I are talking, someone might end up liking what you're talking about, what Dr. Mary's talking about, or what I'm talking about, and then gravitate and maybe even buy a product. Or plus, at the same time, there's so many different ways to put it out on socials. It's unbelievable when you could spice it all up and edit it. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you can do this from anywhere. That is the thing. Like when we go out on the road, and I'm kind of announcing this on your show, we're fixing to go on tour.
Oh, look at you!
Oh,
and who's we? Give me the specifics. Like, is there
Sure.
two in the lineup?
Mr. Flow Easy, Mr. Billups, that is my boss. That
Gotcha.
is the one I'm working for. He is the
Gotcha.
artist.
Gotcha.
So him and Glenn Fox he's been doing some great things out there in comedy. So we're going to have a comedy person on our tour too.
Ooh.
Mr. Flow Easy, he is an R&B hip hop artist,
Mm-hmm.
and he, like I said, he went platinum, he went diamond several times over. He's a great artist, very cool guy, knows the business from the inside out. He's been doing this for a while. He was first signed when he was 18 years old. I apologize for that.
Mm-hmm.
At a very young age. So he knows this business. And we're going on tour this year with Glenn and him. And then we have some special guests along with us, guy named Tokage, and really awesome person, really awesome artist. I'm forgetting people. So when they hear this, they're going to be like, she forgot me.
And when does it start, by the way? Are you allowed to say when it starts or no?
Yeah. March the 29th.
Look at you. So this
Yeah.
is a big deal. This is a big deal. Thank you for
Yeah.
announcing that here. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Wow. So I have some naive questions. Again, we're mainly talking about entrepreneurship, but what's it like? What's it like being a manager? I mean, that's got to be an unbelievable experience.
It really is. You know, I get to talk to people in the industry that have been in this industry for a long time, the heavy hitters, the ones that are up there, like the platinum A-listers and their managers, and we coordinate stuff all the time. It's so cool to see stuff come together. It really is. And then you got the hard days, the days that we call in the industry, nothing goes right.
Mm,
And I think that's the hardest thing I've had to deal with, because in medicine we have to make things go right all the time.
you have to, yeah.
You have to. And even when the chips are down, we're still in the forefront of things, making things go right.
Mm-hmm.
So I take that holistic view and I bring it over to the music world, and I think that does me a lot of justice.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the hard days when you can't get somebody to call you back, or a contract falls through, or a venue, we've had venues close down on us.
Oh,
Yeah, and we've already booked them and signed the contract, and we're like, oh, Lord. So there's a bunch of people in the music world that I look up to, and I have two of them that are my mentors. I cannot say because I signed NDAs who they are, but they're heavy hitters. And they told me one day, they said, Mary, and my boss even told me this, Mr. Billups, he said, don't give up, because just when things are about to go right and you're about to hit it big, something always goes wrong.
mm-hmm.
Stick to course, go through it. You've got to go through that to get to the other side. And I think that's the best advice I can give anybody.
That's a very good word of advice for our entrepreneurs out there. I mean, especially right now, the economy might be a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Keep sticking out, because the ones who prevail are the ones who keep sticking it out. Keep working through the mud, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look at Garth Brooks's career, and I'm sure he's had ups and downs. And I look at Reba's career, and I look at Snoop Dogg's career, and I know they've had ups and downs, and they've had things happen to them also that knocked them back down, but they always got back up. They always persevered. They always stuck it out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that looks like might be different for each person, but they've always stuck it out. So I look up to those guys, and they have made an empire for themselves. And I look forward to making that same empire. And you can do it, even on your toughest days.
Very interesting. What about this is a little far afoot, probably. What about technology, the use of technology? Because that's one of the big things we do here at Vast Solutions Group.
Mm-hmm.
We use a lot of technology and AI. Have you been able to employ either AI or technology in your industry to help you as a professional?
There's a lot of talk about AI in the music world. We don't like AI, but we are becoming more accustomed to it, especially when these artists are songwriting. There's a lot of, and I've had to really take some courses and look into this and to know about it. So we talk about songwriting being original or organic.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes from the songwriter or the artist themselves, an experience they've been through, how they relate to the world, how they see others relate to the world. It's a very personal experience, songwriting. So when all these AI apps came out, and especially in the entertainment world, and they're writing songs, like you can put in a subject or a sentence or something, and it'll write you a song. I actually went in and found an app just to try it to see what it was like.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're able to edit it and put stuff in. I was like, okay, so I've song written the organic way and I've done it the AI way. So anything new like that, where it's been a tradition where you've always wrote from the heart, and you can still write from the heart doing AI, I think people see that as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
But we really want to stick to organic content in the music world. And so employing these apps or having these apps for songwriting, I can see where people would get kind of antsy about it or say, hey, it doesn't belong. But AI and algorithms for advertising or to get your music out there or to know trends could really help us in music in the
Mm-hmm.
entertainment world. So I can see that too, especially with the algorithms and stuff. It's hard, like on Facebook, and to get your content out there where it wasn't hard 10 years ago. And I think we're starting to understand that a little more. Um, there's apps that we use for making a virtual venue map of where we're going to go on tour.
Mm-hmm.
There's apps that help us keep up with all of our tour stuff.
Yeah. Hold on.
Business,
That's exactly right. The tour stuff, like, so there's two questions here. Not to cut you off, but I would think AI would help you. But also, you must be totally organized to do the stuff you do as a manager, man. I can't even imagine. You know what I mean?
well, I'm learning a lot being in the big leagues.
Yeah.
But when I was just a manager of like 2 artists, I could, it was easier.
Mm.
Now I have, like 30 people to manage.
You
And
really?
well, you have a whole team. You have a sound team, you have a light team, you have, booking, you have your advertising, you have your main person, you have all of his support. So I mean, there's a lot more than just two artists that I'm used to managing, and I can manage them. So now there's a whole team, especially
Okay.
when you get
So you
up.
do
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I didn't. Wow,
Mhm.
dude. So
Yep.
you're not only the tour manager per se, you're the booking manager, you're the PR person. You do everything for these guys, or for this guy as an example.
Right. And we have people that are on our team that do PR, and people that are, that go and set up the venue, and people that do sound. And so you've got to keep track of all of those. And I think like these apps that I can put that in and know where everybody's at is really helping me to stay organized.
Yep.
So AI in that aspect is really helping the music industry. Absolutely.
No, I get it. Oh my gosh, you are a hero, dude. Well, you've got the background for it. Obviously, I have the academic background, which means you're organized. You're probably pretty darn smart. So I would think, even for some, I mean, for me, I would drop the ball in trying to do all that stuff. But I bet you it's relatively easy because you're so organized, smart, et cetera, et cetera. That's pretty impressive now that I really know what you do. That's really impressive. You have more balls juggling than a typical entrepreneur, if you think about it.
You do. And I think my nursing, learning how to multitask, over the years, and my medicine has really helped me in this role, because you have to juggle so many, and medicine, and I mean, you're doing like 20 things at once, keeping it organized. When you're working on a patient, you're the patient's advocate, you're calling the doctor, you're writing prescripts, you're diagnosing them, you're putting everything in, you're like that is you have to multitask. You have to do all of that, and it's just you. So I think I bring that into my music, and I've learned how to stay organized, and I can multitask. And I think that that is a benefit for any manager. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's really impressive, actually. Do you think you didn't need all those degrees for what you're doing now, correct? I mean,
No,
and
no.
healthcare.
So I
Like,
have
yeah.
a legal degree also and a business management
What?
degree. Yeah.
Wait a minute. I think you might actually be the most educated person I've ever talked to, and I know some educated people. Wait a minute. So you have a legal degree and a business degree and all those other degrees?
Yep. 10 degrees. Yep. Because, you know, I
Dang.
knew when I got those, I didn't use them, but I knew some point in my life I would need them. Especially, you know, being a nurse practitioner and on the road, you're going to need those. Dealing with people in general, you're going to need those. So I got them because one day I knew I would need them. Absolutely.
Wow. I didn't connect that. Wow. That's pretty impressive. That is really, I don't know how you had time because you're young. You're young. I don't know how you had time to do all that stuff in your short
You
career.
know, if I look back, I've been in school, been in college for 15 years.
Ah,
And I worked full time. Um, and it was like I just kept getting degree, work, degree. But I started off when in the medical world when I was 16. And then I got my first degree by the time I was 18 or 19.
first
And then
college?
I just went on from there.
Wait a minute. You get your first college degree when you're 18?
I entered college when I was 18 and got my first degree when I was 19 years old.
Holy mackerel.
Yep.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. That's unbelievable. I went to school for my master's and I thought that was a long time. I can't imagine going, wow, that's really impressive. Nice work.
Thank you. You know, I've worked hard. I remember, and I also tutor and mentor nurses from around the world to open up their own practices and to go further than what they can, because I've been there. I've done that. I know what it takes. I know the dedication that it takes for anything in the medical world and in the music world. If you stay focused, I mean, I've had setbacks. I have had people be like, why are you doing this? I've had people not believe in me. I've had people believe in me. I've had everything in the world happen. Death in my family, um, you know, finances go awry, setback after setback. But I learned to push forward because I had a dream. And I've seen my dreams come true time and time and time again. And I pushed for another dream. And I think that's, you know, if you want to go after something, you go after something. Don't you let anybody stop you.
And you've gone after things. So let's go over your list. Podcast, I guess, producer and artist, or talent, I guess they call it. You work with nurse practitioners all over the world, it sounds like, I assume coming in the US. You're in the medical profession. You're an attorney. You're
Well, it was more like I'm not an attorney,
I
but
didn't mean that.
I went through, yeah, I'm a paralegal with a master's degree.
Yeah, I guess.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so um it was actually a legal, forgot what they call it. A legal master, like I got my master's in legal studies and a paralegal. So I could take the bar if I wanted.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah, you'd be with
Yeah.
what you have going on. I can understand that. And then obviously the music profession. I mean,
Hmm.
jack of all trades, true Thomas Jefferson, if you will. All right, so let me ask a couple kind of last questions for you. So what would you say, because you've done a lot, obviously you've done a lot. How about this? What's one thing we have not gone over in this podcast, in this viewcast, that you think would help an entrepreneur, either about podcasts or about their business, et cetera, et cetera? What's one thing we haven't gone over that you think can add value to the people who are watching and listening to this?
Finances.
Go ahead. What do you mean?
Okay, so when I started out, I didn't have any financial backing for this. So I learned how to get that. I learned how to network,
Mm-hmm.
to offer like, hey, I can offer you this if you offer me this service. So I learned that. And I think it's so important to be able to network in any business, to go to networking events and conferences and make those connections. It doesn't matter what business you have. It doesn't matter what podcast you have. It doesn't matter if you're in the medical, the music business, doing what you do. It's a lot about connection to people and networking. I think that's, like when you network, if you need something, you can call up somebody in your network and you can say, hey, I have this going on. Can you help me with it? Or can we trade services? Or, um, you know, I have this going on. Can I get your advice on it? I think that's like a lot of in my business, um, connection to people, networking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important.
I would think it's really important in music. I mean, very, very important because it's all about relationships. Well, I think the
Mhm.
world over is about relationships. I think even more so probably music, Yeah.
Absolutely. Even in my nurse practitioner business, I have a private practice now where, when we're on the road or we're at shows, I take care of those artists, especially those that may have health conditions or need medication, or if anybody gets sick on the road. And, nobody else is doing that out there. I mean, they may have, somebody they call up like a personal physician or anything, but to have somebody on the road with you and there is very valuable. So I'm thinking like an entrepreneur there, but I'm also thinking about how I can connect my music and my medicine.
Mm-hmm.
When we're on the road, I do a podcast, and it's literally podcasting on the road. I mean, that's very unique because you run into different artists, different people, you put them on, I mean, your podcast, and it's a way to reach new audiences each state we go into. So again, I'm thinking like an entrepreneur, but I'm also thinking like an artist manager. I'm also thinking about my artists. I'm also thinking about reaching new people. So thinking outside the box, who else has a nurse practitioner out there that is an artist manager that's also going to podcast on the road for you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So, and people love that. And, I try not to boast about that. I don't be like, hey, look at me. That that's not me. But when people ask about my background, it's like they're lining up for my podcast. I do remember this year I'm going to be at the AMAs, the Alabama Music Award.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be a red carpet host.
Woo! Wait a minute, what's
Yeah.
that? Explain that. What's that mean? That sounds
Yeah. So a red carpet host. Okay. Have you ever seen like the Grammys and those people that are on TV interviewing the artists?
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
Oh, no way. Serious? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I mean, there's so many people that I meet that are fans of my podcast. Last year I met Marquise Legend. He is a huge artist, and he came to the AMAs and sat down at my podcast and looked at me and he said, I've been following your podcast since day one. I'm your
You're,
biggest fan. I was like, I'm your biggest fan.
dude, no way.
So
Dude,
yeah,
there's
I
so many
mean,
moving parts there. So that's really smart, by the way. That's a cool story. So you did your podcast from the site in this case. So that probably got you some views, listenership,
mhm,
and just audience participation there
30K,
as well.
30K views on that night. Now, there happened to be a technical glitch where everybody's Wi-Fi went out but mine, because I have my own in-looped system. So I was the only one broadcasting from the AMA.
No way. Oh, dude, that must have been
Yeah.
huge.
So, I mean, it worked in my favor. They asked me back this year because I was so popular.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have some crazy stories, some things that have happened to us, um, like that story. I mean, we'll
That's
literally be at a show and in walks this huge artist, and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm like, "Hey."
That's really, dude, hold on a second. That's really smart to do it from a location, because
Yeah.
if you market, I'm making this up, NCAA, whatever, Final Four as an example, you're going to get some viewers or listenership from that. And then plus, who knows, people who are coming there, you can interview them. You just gave me an idea. That's a really smart idea, Dr. Mary.
It is, and you get in tune with this audience, like it just flows when you're there. It just flows. Like I can't even begin to tell you guys how, like, I get in front of these audiences, and people just, it's like a magnet, y'all. And you get in this vibe and you do your thing, and like I said, if you truly love what you're doing, it's going to show and people are going to watch it. It's just so interesting to see it come together, and I love what I do, and it really shows. So yeah, being at the sites, not being scared to go out there and do your thing, um really truly loving what you're doing, going to these sites, setting up, you get different viewers, you get people coming in, you get interesting stories, y'all.
That's it.
Interesting stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I've learned a lot through this, whatever, the 30 minutes we've been chatting. Okay, how about in closing, how does someone get a hold of you for any of your thousands of services? How does someone get a hold of you?
Sure. So they can always go to Facebook. That is the most popular. I do have a website also, but on my Facebook, I'm going to go there right now so I can tell you guys. It's under Healing Vocals, Dr. Mary. I'm the only Healing Vocals Dr. Mary on Facebook. So I'm sorry, my internet is working really slow. They can reach me. That's the most popular place.
So is it HEALING, right? And
Yeah,
then Power. I think you said Powers, POWERS.
no, it's vocals. So it's Healing Vocals. HEALING vocals, VOCALS. Dr. Mary. So DRMARY.
Got it.
And then my webpage is healing hyphen vocals 4.webnode.page.
Is that for FOR or just the digit 4?
The number 4.
Got it. Got it.
Yep.
Awesome, man. Wow, I appreciate it. This has been a fun little conversation. I can't wait to hear more about the tour starting March 29th, number one. Number two, about the success, even more success that you're going to be having about your podcast and all the other things you're going throughout the year. I think this has been a fun conversation. Nice stuff, Dr. Mary.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on. I think in closing, I would like to tell you guys, it's the team that you have that also makes you a success. The team that I'm a part of now they are so positive. You know, they let me know, hey, you're always a part of our team. You know, anything you need, we're there for you. And I think that makes me a better manager and more successful. So sometimes it's about the team that you have. Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally get it. Speaking of team, thank you for being part of our team today. And for everyone else who's out there listening and watching, really appreciate you guys taking the time. Once again, my name is Kenneth French, vastsolutionsgroup.com. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully you've been able to learn a little bit about Dr. Mary, and also maybe a couple ideas about podcasts, about the music industry, about how to be a better entrepreneur, et cetera, et cetera. This has been fun for me. Hopefully it's been fun and informative to all of you. Once again, Kenneth French of vastsolutionsgroup.com.
Thank you.
Dude. Oh.